First of all, we need to introduce ourselves because this is a new episode.
Bro, I was literally
Right.
gonna say, I'm gonna put up the comment right up in the screen somewhere. Shout out to Adil, yeah. But this guy, he messages me after watching the first week's episode, and he's like, bro, like I've been watching this episode for the last 30 minutes, and I have no clue who you guys are.
All right.
He said, I found out about you guys 30 minutes into the episode. And I was like, damn, did we really forget that?
Yeah, we really forgot to introduce ourselves, but really that's just showing you how new we are to all of this and really how you guys are literally at the start of the adventure with us right now. So,
yeah, literally.
Like to
I was thinking we do a little origin story. We did it about the channel last week. We do it about us, you know.
Oh.
Where did we meet? How did we? Was it love at first sight? What was it?
Maybe. And so obviously I am Izzy, right? One of your hosts in this. And along with me right now.
Ayaz. I just stole your line.
Go.
I am Ayaz.
I am Izzy. Fucking the most awkward way, right? Anyways. Just to give you guys a little backstory on how we came to be. It's not really it's not really that hard. It's not really anything out of a movie. We just went to the same sixth form college together, and the energy was right, the vibes were right. We were into similar things, in the same group. Let's not delve into that sort of story because we both know what's going on there.
Yeah, how you been though? Like I don't think I haven't spoken to you in a minute, and I wanted to catch up. And I thought, yeah, in general, like I haven't spoken to you in a minute, and I thought like this might be
our little catch up.
Exactly.
I mean, in general, I've been good, man. I don't know how many times I mentioned the pandemic last episode, but this episode also is gonna have a slight little corner. I've just been thinking on how I've been spending my time. For me as a person, time is a very important thing, and it's something that really interests me because everyone has the same 24 hours. But it might feel different to certain people, right? You might feel like today was so long. You might feel like today went by in a flash of and blink of an eye, right? And I've been trying to utilize my 24 hours to be more useful, to fit alongside what I wanted to do more, because this is the year that I want to do more of myself. Not just in terms of content creation, but in terms of health, well-being, general day-to-day life, little things like that, my hobbies, right? So that's how I've been. I've literally just been sort of trying to spend more time with myself, with me, with what I like, trying to pay attention to my wants and needs a little more. Now,
I think that's important. I think that's very important, to be honest.
Right.
Because I feel like we spend a lot of our time almost focusing on others and like what others think of us, and
right.
And it's I think it's very important to once in a while just get down to it and focus on yourself, or like build yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Focus on just building yourself, nothing else.
You can never get time back. You can always spend it, but you can never get it back. And in terms of time, which is now the theme of our recent discussion.
Quick little thing. If you guys, if you do happen to have some time and you do happen to not be doing anything at home, you can always count on MARINATE.
This is literally the point of us making this.
I'm going to plug as much as our videos as I can, to be honest.
No shame right now. We're starting up. No shame.
We're a small business. Please help us. Speaking of like spending your time and like really trying to figure out what to do, you've been watching some true crime stuff.
True crime has been gripping me lately. I'm sure some of you out there might have the same YouTube Explore page as me, but I've been getting recommended these true crime sort of mini episodes by a channel which I'm gonna plug called Coffee Crime House. Right, you guys can go check that out.
That's a cool name for a channel. I'd imagine. Not as cool as MARINATE.
It's either Coffee House Crime or Crime House Coffee, man. Something. Anyways, I'm sorry.
You have the word crime and coffee in there. Okay?
Yes.
That's all you need to know.
That's all the key. Listen, the YouTube search bar will do the rest for you, okay?
Just search coffee and crime.
The murderer by the name of Tatsuya Ichihashi, right?
Ooh.
So now with that name, obviously we are visiting the land of Japan. A land that many have almost fetishized, really. as like this ideal place, and for the most part, they are living in the future. We can all agree with that. They have technology that's leaps and bounds ahead. What it feels like. The reason I'm bringing him up is because in that video, it really highlights this sort of concept that I've been gripped with since I was a kid. This fear of stranger danger, right? Or what would you do if you were on your way home, in whatever hour, daylight, nighttime, and you noticed that someone was following you? What would you do?
It just reminded me because it's kind of sad. Like I just find it really sad because I think like a lot of our female viewers would like understand this, relate to this. You know what I'm trying to say? Because
exactly,
I have friends who just say like if they come home late from work or like if they've been out, there's just random strange guys following them. Like as a guy, it's kind of hard to like imagine, but I feel like a lot of people live through it and they kind of understand it already.
It's saddening that obviously, like as I said, many of our female viewers would relate to that fear because unfortunately it does sort of crop up more in their life, way more often than in a guy's life, right? The reason that I brought up all these themes and why they're significant is because it directly ties into this story. So Tatsuya Ichihashi is this I think he was a 28-year-old man at the time, 28 or 26, around that age. And he developed this sort of fixation on this young woman, by the name of Lindsay Hawker, who was 22 at the time. Surprise, surprise. That's our age right now.
Yeah.
Right? And why I especially sort of paid attention to this story, because her life back then in 2007 is exactly what we're sort of going through right now. So I think she was getting ready to go into her dream university or something like that. And she had a little time. She wanted to spend a little time. She's an extrovert. She got along well with people. She was very successful, very smart, fit, like into sports and stuff like that. And instead of continuing to the next stage of her education, she wanted to take a little gap year, which many of us do. I took a gap year. You took a gap year technically, right? We all do it because everyone thinks at the same time, like during that gap year, I want to do something new with my life. I want to explore a certain path that I haven't done. I want to start something new. I want to see.
Yeah, you want to take a break from yourself and don't want to do something different.
During that time, like I mentioned, she was 22, just starting off. She moved to Japan, got a job as an English teacher with this really prestigious, trustworthy quality.
Yeah.
And she was happy with it. She lived like in the city. The video obviously goes into more detail about like where exactly, like, the details, but point is, young adult living technically alone, not really alone. She had roommates and stuff, but that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And no one would expect their lives to come to an end. I don't think like any of us here would expect our lives to come to an end, like, by tomorrow, next week, whenever. No one even wants to know, really, most of the time.
Yeah.
And she just happened to be riding her bike home one day when Tatsuya saw her and this guy, right?
So it was late at night, I'd imagine.
It wasn't even late at night. I think it was like during the day or evening.
Oh, wow.
He runs after her, trying to hold a conversation to try and like grab her attention, which is already weird, right? You're on a bike. You're riding home. You're not really necessarily paying attention. You kind of just want to get to your destination, and someone is chasing you on foot, trying to hold a conversation with you. So the weirdest thing is, so he's trying to ask her if she can teach him English, because he can clearly see that she is a foreigner, right?
And it was just in the road, somewhere on
the road. Yeah. And she speeds up because the guy made her uncomfortable. It's very weird, right? He's literally running after her. And the craziest part is we learn afterwards, because obviously this case is now an old case and more details are added. He trained specifically to run after people. Like, he went on regular runs. He kept active specifically to have the amount of stamina that he had in order to chase people.
What?
Right? He chases her. She speeds up and he chases him. Like, he chases her the entire time without fail. He doesn't get tired. He doesn't stop. He follows her the entire way until she reaches her
That's
home.
weird.
Right? At this point, she can't shake him off. And he's very persistent. So she decides to do one thing, which I think is the most, I guess, the moment that she messed up, like a lethal mistake. Right?
Right.
So he's like, I've been chasing you this entire time. I'm very thirsty now. Would it be okay if you were to invite me inside for a cup of water, and then I'll leave? You know, I'll offer you my deal. I'll have my cup of water, and whatever your answer, I will leave. That's what he says to her. So she thinks, okay, fine. I will invite him in. Use this as an opportunity to show him that she doesn't live alone, because her roommates were in.
Okay,
right?
okay. So
All
she
right,
did have
so-
an angle.
Okay,
It wasn't
so
just
she
complete.
had she
Okay.
had an
Okay.
idea
Okay.
where he was like, can you teach me English and I'll pay you, I think it was a figure of something like 3,600 yen per hour, which was I think $36 per hour or something like that.
Pretty decent.
Um,
All right.
I mean, obviously, like I said again, and I'll repeat it, you can go fact check the video like in the description. The link will be there and you can watch it for yourselves. But this is just our little like aftertake, like my little review. I'm telling him the story. So he offers her this really good deal that he's gonna pay her really well, just to teach him English, and they're gonna meet up in a public place, like in a cafe. So don't even worry about that part, which she obviously thinks, like any of us would, it's fine. I could use the money, and it's public. It's a public place. Like there
This
is
guy must really want to learn English if he chased her down the whole way.
right. He doesn't work. He has no income. The only income that he has is his allowance from his rich parents, which would not sustain their little deal at all, because their deal was, you know, how many thousand yen per hour. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
his
where's he
only
gonna pay
income-
from?
Exactly. So there was no intention of paying her in the first place. It's literally just a trap. Anyways, so all those warning signs aside, she does end up meeting him. Like I said, he does do weird little details sometimes where he moves way too close to her, and she visibly steps back.
So this is on the cafe.
Yeah, in the CCTV footage, like there's a moment where, you know, they're talking, and he moves way too close to her, and she moves back, clearly uncomfortable. But I think there's this thing about being in public where you do feel a bit safer, because obviously,
Yeah,
You
you
don't
got
expect
eyes
things
on
to
you. Yeah.
yeah, you don't expect things to happen in public because you got eyes on you. You know, it's enough of a detergent
Yeah.
that, you know, or deterrent. Sorry, not a detergent.
Detergent. I missed it too.
Mr. Clean. What he says is, "Oh, I forgot the payment. I forgot to bring any money with me. I actually just live quite close. Do you want to come over and get it?"
Oh.
They get into a taxi together. They get to his place, and she didn't bring her bike with her because her main mode of transport was her bike. So she asked the taxi driver if he could stay, you know, if he could stay in front of the house, because it's only going to be a quick little thing and she'll come back out with the money. Obviously, she's only just grabbing something. And after an amount of time, she doesn't come out, and she hasn't let anyone know. So immediately alerts were up. Police were notified. I think it was definitely more than 2 police officers that went to try and stop him, and he barged them, and he lost them. Within, obviously, there was a mixture of the structure
Wait,
of the
so
building.
So they went to his house. They breached into his house, and he ran out.
They were on his way. Yeah, they were on the way to try and stop him, to apprehend him for at least questioning, right?
Okay.
Because it is very clear that her last place, where she was sighted, was his place.
Was his place? Yeah.
Yeah. He completely like barges them and loses them within the structure's sort of confusing floor map. And this guy fled, right? He completely goes to like a different part of Japan and just hides out this is the craziest part to me. He hides out on an abandoned island in an abandoned nuclear shelter, or like
so
a bomb shelter.
He completely bails. So he completely bails.
dips. No one finds him for months.
Off the
And
grid.
it turns from days to weeks to months to years. I haven't even delved into what actually happened to Lindsay, and I'm not going to go into graphic detail because what happened was really sad. Like, she was abused uh sexually before she died. He killed her by strangling her, because he said in an interview that he was scared that she will make noise and then the neighbors will notice. Okay, so the clue that made police storm his place in the first place was they couldn't see his place. They knew where he lived, but they wanted to see if they could spot any unusual activity first. And Japan's rooms are sort of modular, so things could be moved around quite freely sometimes, right? To make use of the space. They noticed that he moved his bathtub outside to the balcony for whatever reason, and he covered it with something. Like, there was a cover over that bathtub. So yeah, going back to the time where they stormed his place, they lost him, so they decided to just storm his place and, see what was in there, to try to see if they can at least find a body, which they successfully do. But it was in the bathtub, but this isn't a normal cover-up. So I mentioned that he graduated within agriculture.
Bro, is it what I think he did?
Okay, so he covered the entire body with soil.
Yeah.
And
yo, what the? That's messed up.
He put in decomposing agents within the soil to help her body break down more, and he planted seeds specifically that would have eventually fed on her.
That's messed up.
Once her body broke down, it would have been absorbed into the soil, and it would have fed the plants, and it would have made his bathtub look like a makeshift flower pot.
That's messed up.
Like, he knew exactly what sort of plant to use, the type of soil, the decomposing agent. When have you ever heard of a killer using a decomposing agent? Like, we've all watched Breaking Bad. There's the usual trope, acid. There's different ways to get rid of a body, to get rid of evidence, to get away with murder. But I don't think this is the first time in my personal life where I've heard of a decomposing agent, soil, seeds, plants.
Honestly, it's extra creepy, the fact that you said it's a real story, because this sounds like straight out of a movie, like you said, Breaking Bad. It's something.
So, for all these years that he was out, I think it was 2 or 3 years, the Japanese government obviously already had photos of him, right? And as the time frame got longer, they started photoshopping these photos to sort of match what he might look like now, what he might look like with a wig on, with glasses, with age.
Like a little profile of the guy.
Yeah, a little profile. And they even had I saw in the video, they had life-size pop-outs, cutouts with his picture on, saying this individual about this height, to sort of more easily help the people visualize.
Yeah.
Ichiya Tadashi got really paranoid. Okay, so paranoid, in fact, that with all these pictures of him and with the length of time that he's been out and running from police, he wants to change his face. And after surgery, immediately the surgeon, once the guy leaves the office, the surgeon phones up police and said, I think I might
the surgeon knew who he's operating on.
He knew, and he baited him into the pictures to sort of add more evidence, basically, to have
That's
really conclusive evidence that this is the guy, right? The police are on the case and they catch him. End of story. He goes through the due processes. I think he's still in prison, or I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember what sentence he got, but it was definitely a long one. It's a murder, right? As he was trialed, he has this sort of, I wouldn't say a change of heart, but he has this twisted thought where he wants to make it up to Lindsay's family, because obviously he took their daughter's life. He decides to publish a book about the whole situation. I think it was before or from prison.
Okay.
But it details how and why, what sort of training he did, why he decided on certain things. It's really fucked up, man. Because it's from his perspective. The book, literally, his name is on the front cover as the author. And he wills that the proceedings, everything gained from that book, in terms of sales, is given to her family. Yeah. Which they obviously decline. Because would you do it?
Oh hell no!
If
That's
someone
messed
killed
up.
your daughter
And wrote
and
a book
decided to write
about
a
it
book about it
in grim details
in detail about what they did to your daughter, they're
and
making
give
a
you that
profit.
money. That's
They're making a profit off of that death, off of that like heinous act. Obviously, no one will take that. You think, right? As an outsider's perspective, when we hear this story, we pick up on so many of the red flags.
yeah. Like in hindsight, you
In
kind of have the
hindsight, but if we were to be her in that time,
yeah. You need the money. You're a
Would
foreign
we?
exchange student in a different country.
Right?
I mean, I get
When-
I get it.
would we suspect
Sort of.
murder? No, I don't think anyone like we definitely be like a bit weirded out because he's a
Yeah.
strange guy and the way he did stuff was really weird. But I don't think any of us would think that it would end this way. I've talked to this with someone recently as well, in the sense that like certain girls are so scared of even rejecting guys, purely
Yeah.
based on like what could happen, right? You don't know how that guy is gonna react. You don't know how like are they gonna react with words? Are they gonna react physically? Because there's been cases like that, right?
That's messed up. Yeah.
Which is fucked up. Because how can you act like that just because someone doesn't reciprocate your feelings?
Just today actually I was watching. This is not a real crime story or anything. It's still a weird story, but like I think her name is Charlize Theron. You know the actress. I think she's in Atomic Blonde and like Fast and Furious. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
But basically, I was literally listening to her thing today, and she was talking about. She didn't exactly mention. She was on the Howard Stern show, I think, so another
Yeah.
podcast. She didn't exactly mention who it was, but she said a very well-known Hollywood producer, who still is a very big deal right now. You know where this is going.
Right.
But
Yeah.
basically what happened when she was 19 and she was starting out into like movies and stuff, and she wasn't very sure about it, she wasn't sure of like whether she wants to get into like acting or like whether she wants to do something else with her life.
Yeah.
And she said she was talking to this lady who happened to know a producer, right? Because in Hollywood that's how it works. You know someone who knows
someone who knows someone. Yeah.
Exactly. So she was saying how she knew someone who knew this producer who's like a big deal in Hollywood, still is.
Okay.
But basically she said, oh, I could get you an appointment with him. And she was like, yeah, sure. Because like, obviously, like you said, when you're starting out, when you don't really know much, you're young.
Yeah. You're
You
naive
kinda-
and you need that.
Yeah,
You feel like you need that. You know?
exactly. So what she did was like, she's like, yeah, sure, I'll give this a shot. Problem is, right, he gives her an appointment at night, at 9 p.m. exactly. And you know where? At his house in
Oh, come on, man.
So she goes there, she drives up there. She had like a rented car because she was very broke at that time. She goes up, she knocks on his door. He opens up in his pajamas. And there's music playing in the background. First of all, I find this extremely weird why guys would think, oh, if this girl sees me on my gray joggers, she's gonna just lose her mind, die completely. And some soft R&B in the background. No, bro. She goes in and she's already a bit sus, right? But like you said, she's naive and young, and she wanna.
Yeah, exactly.
You
don't know any better, and you want to make that connection. You want to
This
get
guy's
into
got
what
a
you really
name,
want.
like you do it. She goes in, he sits next to her on the couch, and they're talking, and then she's like, okay, so are you gonna give me like a script or something that I can read off, like so you can see how I do it? And he's like, no, let's listen, let's talk. And what he does is like he puts his hands on her thighs, like very slowly. At that moment, you don't know what to do. You don't know about like if you say no or yes. Apparently, she completely froze, and she didn't know what to say. So he was touching her thighs up, and at some point, I think something kicked in inside her. She didn't say anything. She didn't speak anything. She just stood up and ran out the door.
Good.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and he was saying shit like, "Oh, you're never gonna make it big," and things like that. And she's it's messed up.
That links with everything. I mean, this is going into something completely different, but the whole Harvey Weinstein, everything to do with like Hollywood and huge producers.
That's like a complete.
The whole like sex ring, and it's just weird.
It's messed up.
No one's not thought about being famous or wanting to be famous, right? Everyone sort of played with that idea in their head, flirted with that idea of being famous. because it seems like something so nice. Like, I mean, obviously, in the reality of it, it's not always that great. You know,
Never that great.
you sacrifice your privacy. You no longer can live a normal day-to-day life because you are suddenly almost like a product, man. There's so many horror stories, right, of interviews of
Yeah.
artists, actors,
Yeah.
saying that they signed their life away or they can't do something against their label. It's literally against their contract. They feel enslaved by their contract, pinned down.
I think, who was it? Who was the guy with the little bead on his forehead? Vision. Lil Vision. Lil Uzi, yeah. I think it was him who
That's
said
recent.
like, oh, you pretty much signed a deal with the devil. And
Go on, sorry.
yeah. I mean, yeah, if you have something to say. And then basically he was stopped by T.I.
I've told you about Lil Xan before, aka Diego, right?
Yeah.
And how there was that crazy little clip of him going live. Obviously, I'm not
Oh
sure how many.
yeah, you told me about that.
There was a little clip of him going live, complaining about how he can't do anything. His contract stops him from saying certain things, from being him. He can't even go live without his manager being right there. It's a trap, blah blah. He's like very clearly distraught, and his manager on camera grabs his phone like away from him, or there's this little struggle, and he ends the live. Like right then and there.
I mean, if we don't even have to look that far right now, because I mean we're the masters of dating episodes apparently. But basically, like very recently, the thing, I don't know if you know what's happening with Britney Spears.
No.
She's been on the news a lot lately about her dad. So I think from what I know, again, don't quote us, fact check, but basically her dad, I think, owns. Like he's like her manager or something like that, and what he's been doing over the years that we didn't know is that he's been making money off her. So like he's been telling her to perform when she had like mad fever. Like there's been videos circulating suddenly. He put her on birth control, said you can't, and he said things like
you can't stop to have like a baby because
you
have to keep,
you can't take no
this
breaks.
You have to keep, that's disgusting to do.
And that's her dad, bro. Like
that's disgusting.
You're not allowed to get married. You're not allowed to have you're not allowed to have a kid. And like, I don't know if you remember, like Britney was having a lot of mental breakdowns, and people were calling it drug abuse, and there were like drugs.
Her head or something.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people making fun of her on Twitter.
Then it kind of like now you sort of know, and it was all because related to her dad, and it's messed up. Like he's literally been using her as a puppet to make money off her.
That's disgusting, man. To do to your own blood, like, you know what that reminds me of? Okay, so Black Mirror, the Miley Cyrus episode.
Oh yeah, bro.
Right?
That messed me up. Yeah.
How much freedom?
If you guys haven't watched Black Mirror, honestly, I mean, I haven't either. A lot. Izzy has watched a lot more than me. I have watched bits and bobs. Every episode is different. I highly recommend you guys watch this. But yeah.
So there's a part in the episode where you literally find out that they have comatose this girl and are using bits and clips of her voice recordings to splice together new songs. Yeah, they have taken full and complete control of her as a product, and are now selling whatever image they want of her. They have this 3D rendition, like this hologram of her, which is highly customizable. They can put whatever clothes they want, whatever hairstyle, whatever sort of movement, facial expressions, everything, inflection in her voice.
Yeah. And the songs they were making, they were taking bits and bobs of her, like her speaking or like her noises or something, or samples even, and then putting them together, editing them into like a whole new song and releasing it to the public. And while they're in a coma, by the way.
Yeah, she's still in a coma, and that scarily reminded me.
It was overhyped, obviously, in terms of like technology, like we don't have yet, right? But it's very close to like the things we have. Yeah. And like it's very, like, it's all like we were talking about the whole time. Once you sign that contract, that's it. Like, you're part of it, and they have control over your life. You're it's not you anymore.
Like there's so many instances where I can see that actually happening, or it has happened. Like there are actual examples. Like I said, the whole Lil Xan thing, your little Britney Spears story, that's crazy to me. There are so many examples, real life examples too, which is, young people attaining fame, ODing, losing control, losing their lives, losing creative freedom. And an example that I normally gravitate towards in terms of like the whole young person dying or like recently attaining fame, Lil Peep, or XXX Tentacion, right?
Juice
We all
WRLD.
know Juice WRLD. And you know what the most disgusting part about all three deaths is? After their deaths, how are people still releasing music?
Bro,
You know?
bro.
Have we thought about that? Like, that directly just ties into what we just said. These tracks have literally been taken from, unreleased tracks, little clips of their voices, and are now being released as little legacy tracks.
That song with X and Lil Peep,
I didn't even...
Bro, it was trending. And you know what's sad though? Because it's Lil Peep's mom who owns the rights to his stuff now.
Yeah.
And you can say it's a homage or whatever you say it is, but not really. It goes back to your story, bro. Like the book about, like the murderer who wrote the book and making profit, just trying to give the profit to the mom. Again, this is just my opinion.
Can't speak for these people.
Especially because it's not, the artist didn't release the song. It was some samples from like hard drives from years ago. You put them together and create a Frankenstein.
I never even gave a thought to these tracks after their death because I don't count them to be something of theirs. It's not them. It literally isn't them, and it's unnatural, almost very disturbing to sort of be listening to remnants of them.
They released a song with Juice WRLD the other day.
Man, that's fucked
and
up.
how long ago did he die? That's messed up, bro.
Okay, so obviously we're looking at all of this from a disturbing point of view, right? We're looking at it from a negative, sort of horror point of view. Obviously, if you're a fan of these people or these artists and you don't think anything's wrong with it, sure. That's your opinion.
I understand there might be a longing. Yeah, they died too young. You want to hear more of this stuff.
You might want to see them, doing what they love to do. In my own personal opinion, these tracks do not represent the artist, especially after they have ceased to exist technically. They've died. They've passed on. They no longer have the sort of input as the artist to say that, okay, this is what I'm happy with. This represents what I want to do with my music. They aren't here to say that anymore. The people that are doing it right now, the people that are releasing it, are money grabbers. Literally. They are just riding off of that artist's name.
Honestly, don't you think, like, if they, like you said, if they like those music that's coming out right now, they would have released it a long time ago, right?
Right.
Like, why is it on backup hard drives? Why is it, in some, some shelf under, collecting
Artists
dust and stuff?
change all the time, right? They change their sound, their signature sound, their direction in music. X did it. Lil Peep already was an experimental artist,
I think there's a difference between straight up money grabs. For example, that song with Lil Peep and X. Apparently they didn't even know each other that well in real life,
No.
And they just straight up made a music and where they were just, I don't know, it's just disturbing to me. I feel like there's a very difference between a money grab and a homage,
and a collaboration.
One thing I would personally I'd be okay with, for example, you're not a big fan the Fast and Furious franchise. Right. So I think it was the 6 or the 7 where halfway through filming, Paul Walker had a tragic accident. He died. He passed away, which blew everyone up. Everyone was devastated, and he was one of the most, fan favorite characters.
Loved in the franchise.
Yeah, and what they did was they wanted to finish the movie, also give him a very good send off. So what they did was, they added, I think they had his brother act his part and use some real face recognition thing.
It was the earliest sort of version of Facetune, or what we all know now as deepfakes.
Yeah. It was literally one of the earliest deepfakes, I think. Yeah. And they have him. I think personally that was a very nice send off they did. They didn't kill him off. They didn't. Yeah. But I thought that was good. I thought that was heartfelt. Because everyone felt the gravity of that, it was like a send-off. They made 10 of the Fast and Furious after that. They never brought him back.
There's significance to it, right? There's a weight to it.
'Exactly. 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 'Exact
But if we imagine them as dead, their music as their dead body, what these people are literally doing, they're desecrating the corpse. They're literally fucking around with their dead body. And would you let that happen? You wouldn't. That's fucked up. That's so disturbing. Like, if you imagine that image in your head, that's fucked up, right? But that's exactly what's happening. And you are messing up their original image.
Ooh, bro. That's this is a really dark and depressing episode, I think. For a first episode, it went like really deep. But like, yeah, for sure.
When I put it in terms of that, can you more easily visualize what I'm thinking about when stuff like this comes out and why I don't respect it?
Damn, I don't know how to follow that up, honestly.
I mean, it's a really heavy note to stop on, because obviously, like I said,
food for thought, though, honestly.
Yeah, like, these are our opinions. Obviously, it's our podcast, but not everyone is gonna agree. But personally, for me, that's exactly how I visualize this scenario, because like I mentioned earlier on, when do you actually rest nowadays? These sort of intentions, they're not exactly hard to do per se, but intentions are very quickly picked up on. So if it's meant to be respectful, you can feel that whilst you're, taking in whatever sort of content that you're watching. You can definitely feel. All right, if we were to put a positive spin on the whole music thing, because I feel like I've been too dark this episode. I guess in a way, if we were to flip the mindset and we were to try and put ourselves in, I don't know, I guess Gus's mom's shoes or whoever put out those music, maybe in their mind, their intentions were, we want this to be a tribute. We want to continue the image of these artists that have passed away so that, the fans can keep enjoying work from them. Maybe, right? I know it's
funny that you say that, because, for example, one of my favorite bands of all time, and I still stand by it, the 12-year-old me would say the same, I still say the same, is Linkin Park. And I'm sure like a lot of people here would like resonate with me, right? And it was extremely tragic when the lead singer, the Chester Bennington, he committed suicide. And it was just devastating. I think I felt a blow. I don't really feel blows with like celebrity deaths, but this is the guy I grew up with, and like I definitely felt it.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the band, Mike Shinoda, Mike Shinoda, and and like the rest of the band, they held a very big concert where they had like a lot of different artists come together, perform. They had artists coming in from Japan, the UK. They had like.
I heard about stuff like this because, confession to make, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're both into similar things, but when you're into rock and stuff, I feel like I lean more towards metal and stuff like that, right? So it's a slightly different scene, but I know what you're talking about.
They had Avenged Sevenfold, is that the band? They had them over as well to perform one of the tracks. But what I'm trying to get to is like, it wasn't just the fact that they had a tribute, like they had one of the songs like In the End, but in the end, everyone knows that song. Everyone knows In the End. What they did was they made the fans sing Chester's bit, and the mic rapped the mic's bit, and they had on the stage they had the microphone where Chester would be standing still, and fans were singing it, which I thought was amazing. But even the thing that was even better than that was like all the proceedings from like the ticket sales and all the stuff, they donated it. Not even his family, they donated it to like a suicide prevention charity.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Now that reminds me of another thing. So going from your music scene to my music scene, right? There's a band that I really enjoy too called Suicide Silence. I was gonna say their lead singer Mitch Lucker also, not the same manner as obviously Linkin Park's lead, but he suffered a motorcycle accident and he lost his life very young too. And he was well loved by the community. Not only members of his band.
You told me about them.
I've told you about this, yeah, and I showed you the tribute video which I'm about to reference in this. Well, basically he was well loved by the community too and other bands, so what they ended up doing was to commemorate him, to sort of celebrate his life and his excellence, because obviously he's good at what he does. Clearly that's why he got that band up there in the first place, why many people know of them, why they enjoy their music, because of his screams, highs, lows, his vocal prowess, I guess. And what they ended up doing at this little tribute concert was they got the leads of other bands to come in and perform like his songs, one by one. And one performance that I remember is the one that I showed you, right? When they performed Unanswered and they got Phil Bozeman from Whitechapel to sing his part. And then you get this sort of sense at the same time that it's a really heartfelt tribute because he's putting his all into performing this, meaning he greatly respects, Mitch Lucker too, or the band, maybe not exactly the individual, but the whole thing. And I think that's a great thing. That's why I will always respect the music scene in some sense or another, whatever genre, apart from country. Fuck country.
Country roads.
You know what I'm talking about, right? But yeah, I think going back to what we originally were talking about, that's how you do a tribute.
That's what I'm saying. There's like you said, it's very apparent. It's very apparent. It becomes very apparent whether it's like one or the other.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
as viewers, like from an outside perspective, it's very visible. Maybe not initially, but like it's very visible.
Like obviously, everyone has their opinions, and I don't expect everyone to be into what I am. Never. But
country music.
I was about to say I wouldn't disrespect anyone, but then I just clearly did. So, don't fucking listen to me.
This episode's been way heavier than what we initially expected it to be.
It's heavy. I don't think we expected to go as dark or as depressing as we wanted to. Obviously, we wanted to discuss these sort of things.
Yeah.
But definitely not every episode is going to be this dark. Right?
No, we definitely have lighthearted stuff coming out. Yeah. But I think that's me and Izzy. We just gravitate towards like...
Yeah.
But yes, I that was heavy, bro. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys watched it all the way, honestly, like...
Appreciate it if you guys are still here listening to our voices at this very point, because I think this video has gone on for a very long time, even really if it was going to get edited. Yeah. Thank you for sticking with us for another episode. Join us next time for other things, other dark discussions. And if you want us to talk about anything in particular, do drop the comment, and you never know, it might pop up in a future video. We'll shout you out. But anyways, peace.
Later.